So now it's my turn for my favorite candidate, and I want to make it clear, I do not find this candidate plausible at all, but I love it because it is so, so weird. My favorite candidate is the Tully Monster. So the fossils that we found from the Tully Monster were found in rocks that have been dated to about 300 million years ago. They were first discovered in 1958 in a coal deposit in Illinois. Now, even though they found a whole lot of Tully monsters, they weren't able to figure out a lot about them based on the fossils. Now, when I say fossils, it's more of imprints in the rock than anything else. Tully monsters were very soft-bodied, and most of the material just didn't fossilize. So what was found weren't really Tully monster fossils so much as imprints on the rock. This lack of tissues or other internal organs is one of the reasons why scientists have had such a hard time categorizing Tully monsters. Another reason they've had so much trouble is because of how friggin' weird they look. I mean, look at this thing. It has, we think, these two fins along the back of its body that look kind of like the flippers of a squid. It has these two protuberances, stalks around the center of its body, and we think that there were eyes at the end of each of these stalks. And then it had this long proboscis nose that looks kind of like a stinger that would stick out of the body and had 8 teeth-like structures at the end of it. Again, I cannot emphasize enough how weird the Tully monster is. It has been known to science since 1958, and scientists still have no idea how to categorize it. Arguments have ranged from the Tully monster being a fish, to a sea slug, to a worm, to an arthropod, to a mollusk, to something else entirely. A series of scientific papers from pretty recent years have argued that the Tully monster is related to a lamprey, which itself is a very old and very weird fish. However, another series of papers that are also recent argue that the Tully monster is not a fish, but is rather a type of invertebrate. But now let's go back to the shape of the Tully monster. It has this large bulbous body with this long proboscis that looks a little like a long neck and these 2 stalks with weird eyes on it that could stick out of the water. It's really easy to imagine how somebody could see this thing from the shore and assume it's a Loch Ness Monster. That is certainly what F.W. Holliday thought. He was a Nessie hunter from back in the day, and after learning about the Tully monster, he proposed it as a candidate for Nessie. This argument was picked up on by the author Richard Ellis in his book, Monsters of the Sea. But with all of that said, again, it's extremely unlikely that the Tully monster is actually Nessie. There's a couple reasons for this. First, there's really no evidence that the Tully monster has survived to recent times. Second, and maybe more significantly, you may have noticed I did not mention how big Tully monsters were. The largest Tully monsters were just over a foot long, 1 foot. So for the Tully monster to be any sort of Loch Ness Monster candidate, we'd have to assume not only that it has survived this long, but also that it's grown to 30 times its old size. That would be extremely cool and extremely weird, but not likely. So Tully monster, I love them, but they're not Nessie.
If the Tully monster is so small, why did the scientists think this was a plausible explanation?
I am guessing a couple things. First, the shape of the Tully monster does really work for Nessie, right? Again, the big body, this long thing that looks kind of like a neck, lots of weird protuberances that stick out of the water. And second, we really know very little about the Tully monster because so little of it was preserved. I guess he could think like, hey, maybe in all this time they grew to be really big. It still seems wildly implausible, but again, if you just look at a picture not knowing how big it is, it's very Nessie-like. Thank you all so much for watching. We really appreciate it. And as you can tell, we are a brand new channel. So any subscribes, any likes, we really appreciate it. If you want to check out an older video we did on the same topic, check out the video where we talk about the original legend of St. Columba, the first Nessie sighting.
And also remember to leave a comment if you enjoy this video and let us know who you agree with. And maybe we can tally up the points and see who won in the next episode.
Like and subscribe.